Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show for entrepreneurs, business people today. I mean, when we talk about business on the show, you always know that we're talking about one of the most important things in business, which is money. I mean, you have to understand your financials. You have to understand what's happening from an accounting perspective in order to move forward in your business. And if you don't have what I call tight accounting methodologies, tight P&Ls, tight paperwork, tight documents, tight tax returns, you can have a really, really tough time. So we've been able to invite on the show today a couple of real experts in this field. Of course, we've been able to invite Mr. Alex Franks and his partner, George Allen Deal. We're going to call him Alan during the show today. And they are the co-founders of G&A Consulting Group. And let me tell you, they've got a really interesting approach to business. They have some great customers. And listen to this. They just received a very prestigious award from Forbes. And they've been named one of the leading, I guess, accounting firms and financial firms in America. So that's a really big award that they've won. We're very excited to have them both on the show. Alex, I'll start with you. Alex, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Andy. I really appreciate it, man. Love your energy. Love the enthusiasm. Thanks for having me on board.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show, Alex. And of course, your partner, George, we're going to call him Alan during the interview today. He prefers to be called Alan. George Allen Deal. Alan, I mean, you really handle the accounting side of the partnership. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Yes, thank you for the great introduction. I always try to throw a little twist in things. Everybody's like George Allen Deal. I go by the whole entire name, but now feel free to call me Alan. And I'm glad that you invited us to the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. Alex, I'll start with you, of course. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. We have so many questions about, being named, one of America's best tax and accounting firms in 2022 and 23 and what you do. And we want to get into it to help the entrepreneurs understand about what I said. They have a tight financial approach to their business. But before we do, let's get into it, Alex. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Of course, tell us about G&A Consulting, and then away we go.
Sure. So at a high level, G&A started back in 2015, right? Alan and myself, we were passionate about accounting, passionate about tax. We actually went to college together, Morgan State University. And that's where we started to come up with our kind of dream at that time, which turned into a business, G&A Consulting. And what we do is kind of service young, when I say young, less experienced folks that are starting a business, right? So a lot of people come to me struggling. Hey, how do I get financials together? Do I need bookkeeping? Do I use Excel, QuickBooks? They just have a bunch of questions. So we got into a business to service them. That's how it started, bookkeeping and accounting, and we still offer that service, right? Not just to the phase 1 or phase 2 folks that are just starting, but also the experienced people. When you make that transition and growth, you might need a more sophisticated CPA or one that is more experienced in the industry you're in. So we could be a fit. Then we layered on tax, right? Tax strategy. Business people, the main thing is keep the money in your pocket, pay the IRS and the state their fair share, but you want to keep that money in your pocket. You want the growth, you want to reinvest. So we also help with taxes as well, both for individual and business. So we're kind of what we call a 360 service. We'll help you from start to finish, soup to nut.
Yeah, I love it. The 360 service. You help so many companies. Alan, let's bounce back to you. Of course, Alex mentioned that you met in college. Tell us a little bit about that story. You guys were in college together. I mean, this is a great entrepreneurial journey. At the school, at college, at the university, did you guys say to yourselves, hey, let's open up a firm. Let's when we graduate, let's open up a firm, or did it take a few years after you guys graduated to open the firm up, Alan?
No, great way to actually to talk in regards to Alex and I. We both, as he mentioned, we met at Morgan State University. I'm prior military, moved to Baltimore, Maryland after my armed service time in the military. Joined college, went to the accounting program. Alex and I met in class. Him and I were very, I would say, competitive in class, whereas we competed a lot as far as like who can get the best grade per se. And we took an interest to each other Whereas we even worked at the same retail store during college. We worked at Office Depot. So him and I spent a lot of time together doing our undergrad. And then upon graduation, he went more to the public side of the field. He went to which is now CohnReznick. I went over towards the government side of the field, whereas I worked for the DOD as a government auditor. Him and I stayed in contact. And in 2015, it kind of came together. We were studying the CPA around the same time. And, you know, we both passed, almost he passed first. He beat me in that aspect, but I passed it not too long after he finished. So we talked about starting the practice, and it started off in 2015. He was more still in the public sector, whereas he was transitioning more to the firm he was with prior to that. And we kind of got together and said, let's go and try our own practice. And so, you know, we're here today. We grew almost 80 plus clients later, and recognized by 2 years in a row. So
I love it. Of course, Alan, you and Alex competed during college. I mean, I would imagine you two guys went at it for everything, whether it was, you know, working, who could work harder, who could work longer. I mean, you guys were in competition all the way through. And then you finally decided, hey, you know, we've been competing against each other. We've built this great relationship. Let's use our combined enthusiasm and expertise and knowledge and education to build this firm. And now here you are 80 clients later. I mean, it's a remarkable entrepreneurial story when we think about it. Alex, let's bounce back to you just for a minute now. Talk to us about the types of clients that reach out to you and Alan, and they say, hey, we saw you on the Forbes list. We saw you, as one of America's best tax and accounting firms. We want to get engaged with you. What types of companies, Alex, reach out to you, and what's sort of the sweet spot for G&A right now?
That's a great question, Andy. There's a few industries that we see that tend to reach out to us for both accounting and tax. The main one that comes to mind right now is those that are in real estate. There's a vast amount of areas within that industry. One that we see a lot is real estate agents, right? The last few years, real estate was booming. There's been a little bit of a decline now, but we still see that real estate agents will reach out to us because, one, on the accounting side, they want to make sure they have their books and records right? They have their commissions coming in, but they're spending a lot of money. They travel a lot. They need to track their mileage. Of course, they're self-employed. So they need to make sure that on the tax side, they're paying in their quarterly estimates, and they're making sure their compliance is proper in terms of filing a Schedule C or 1120 or whatever, 1120S, or whatever the case is in their situation. And they just don't know, right? So we're here to advise there. And then also within the real estate realm is those that are investing into rental real estate. That's actually where a lot of my background comes from when I was at Reznick Group, now CohnReznick. And I became experienced in helping those, invest in terms of purchasing, selling, and any other type of capital transaction. That's a big part of what we see. And then the last one I'll mention is home health care. That kind of exploded as well during the pandemic time. And we're getting folks reaching out to us about that, especially on the, what I would say, accounting side, because folks usually have, or clients that come to us, usually have employees in that industry or contractors, right? You got nurses that are traveling, and you got a lot of transactions going through maybe your QuickBooks or whatever you're using, and you need another set of eyes to make sure things are proper. So those are the type of clients that are reaching out. They're not necessarily a certain revenue threshold or income threshold, either experience. It tends to be, people of all shapes and sizes as far as their business type. And we like to, within that, handle both the business and individual. But those are the industries we see the most.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, it's a burgeoning business. You do consulting services that includes, even talking to younger entrepreneurs about what type of entities to select. You consult with people about buying and selling businesses. You talk about financial and retirement decisions. And then, of course, on the accounting services side, there's always the bookkeeping and the bank accounting reconciliations and, the financial statements and the prep and the closeout financial statements. And then you also, of course, do the tax services as well, not only for individuals, but for small to mid-sized businesses as well. It's really awesome. Now, George, let's bounce to you for a minute, because you mentioned this military background that you had. I'm curious, because when we think about accounting, and of course, for the younger people watching the show or the entrepreneurs watching the show, Alan, we look at the accounting, we look at the bookkeeping, we look at the important things, there has to be a process. There has to be things like A has to come and then B has to come, C and D, in order to have a good financial understanding of your business. What did you learn with your military background about sort of being organized that you brought over to G&A, if you will, Alan? What did you learn from military that you brought over to the partnership that you have with of course Alex right now?
Yes, great question. As far as the military, what I always tell Alex, and he sees it in my work ethic, is that attention to detail. Whereas in the military, everything is structured, it's about order, and it's about taking one step at a time. And as far as how I transition over into like accounting and bookkeeping, I always tell clients, it's one step at a time. You look at the big picture, but then don't try and skip steps. And here at DNA, we don't believe in the skipping the steps. We tell people, the practical, what can come about from, their accounting, what they're looking to try and accomplish as far as like certain strategies and that. But as far as not skipping those steps is what's primarily important. And the military kind of embeds that in you, whereas, from basic training all the way through the AIT to your duty station, they teach you, how to follow orders, how to follow standard, and make sure you read the dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Alan, I'll stay with you just for a minute because you really focus and specialize, let's say, on the accounting side. Alex specializes and sort of focuses on the tax side. How did the two of you communicate for a client? Because you have to integrate both of those sides to make a beautiful sort of bouquet of accounting roses, if you will.
No, great question. As far as to be honest with you, behind the scenes, Alex get about 20 calls from me a day in between, because I still work primarily my core job with the DOD, and I work also full time with GNA as well. So I work a lot of non-core hours. Alex is he's a hybrid. He works core and non-core. So dealing with me, our communication, I call it via phone. We do a lot of Zoom actually videos with our clients now. We started off where it was a lot of phone calls. We do take a lot of clients now via Zoom. So that interaction that way, we have mostly virtual office, remote, but we also have a physical office. So we're located in Towson, where clients is more of they prefer the in-person approach. We have that methodology as well. And as far as coordination, Alex let me know if we have a meeting with a client, I do adjustments to my schedule that way and make myself available. But yeah, we corresponded through a number of different ways. Phone, text, Skype, you name it.
Whatever it takes. I mean, you guys are real big communicators, and GNA really has a mission and a vision really to foster your clients' growth through integrity, of course, honesty, respect, and of course, your combined efforts. And I love it so much. Now, Alex, when we think about it, and we're going to bounce back to Alex just for a minute, on an intake, you have a company that calls, hey, we heard about you, we saw you on Forbes, we want in, we've come referred. What does the first sort of introduction sound like? Do you do an analysis of where they're at? Do you help them immediately on the call? What's that first call sound like, Alex?
Sure. Most of those first calls we try to do, we offer 15 to 30-minute consultations on the house. We're not looking to charge. And it's really like a needs assessment is what I would refer to. Okay. We're looking at the needs of the clients. I let them kind of explain to me what they're looking for, why, when, and just understand how I can assist them. So I like to run my mouth, but in those calls, I tend to listen more than I talk. That way I can kind of align what my services are to their needs. So that first conversation is just really understanding what they're in service for. Then after that, and that may take 10, 15 minutes. And after that, I try to explain what GNA does, right? On a kind of macro level, high level, hey, this is overall the service we provide. Then I try to align those services to the needs that the person has said on that call, right? If the conversation is going well, I can see the vibe. I'll kind of move towards not necessarily providing advice, but kind of giving some of my experience. Hey, I know a client that had that situation. I know a colleague I had to help out with that situation. That way they feel comfortable that this guy's just not selling me, but he does this. The firm does this. I'll say that. And then lastly, we'll get into pricing. The reason why I kind of get into pricing on that first call, I don't like to surprise folks, right? I am working with people that are just getting sometimes started with their business. They don't have a huge budget. Getting into getting professional assistance, it's expensive, but it's always not part of your initial budget. So I'm usually that first contact, right? That first professional service. So I just kind of make them aware. Look, it's going to be not pricey, but it's going to be an extra cost. And look, this is what you can expect. So, through that first 30 minutes, what they need, what they can expect from us, and what they can expect price wise. That's how it usually goes.
Yeah, I love it, Alex, so much, because one area that some business people look at where they want to cut their costs is their accounting and their tax returns and their financials. And that's the last place you want to cut. That's the place where you really should spend some money, right, Alex?
You should look at it as an investment, right? Not necessarily a cost. It's gonna pay dividends. And what I mean by that is, one, you're gonna create a relationship, right? Hopefully your CPA is around for a long time, right? So hopefully if you work with me and Alan, we're gonna be your go-to for a long time. Two, we're gonna help you save on taxes. We're gonna help you save on technology costs. We're gonna help you save on mistakes. When you try to do it yourself or you hire somebody that's not capable, you have to go do it twice, right? So getting a CPA will help you save in the future, whether it be tax-wise, time-wise. It's really an investment, not necessarily just a cost.
That's awesome. And of course, Alex, one thing that's happening at the firm is you're growing. And I know you've got big plans for growth, but you've hired in some experts to help as well. Let's talk about your growth strategy and what's going on at G&A.
Indeed, Andy. Over the last few years, we've been able to ramp up. I think in the beginning we had kind of slow growth in terms of clients, but with the Forbes kind of recognition, things exploded over the last couple of years. So we needed to bring in some experts, some people that can help us out. So during this last tax season, we were able to hire 2 contractors to come in and assist us with tax work, which has been great. That allows Alan and myself to kind of deal with the more strategy and tax planning, right? So again, we're looking for slow growth, but consistent, and we can see ourselves building even more with the fact that we have some people that are helping us. And these people as well, we're training, we're showing the G&A way. Some are looking to take the CPA exam, so we're helping them with that. So it's been great to bring people on board, mentor them like we've been mentored before, and it's really helped grow our business. So we're excited to continue to see that.
Yeah, I love it, Alex. George, let's bounce back to you, because when we look at what you're doing and we look at what the firm has been able to accomplish with the awards and all of these very happy clients that keeps on growing and growing, one thing that really kind of caught our attention is this idea that you've really based the entire firm on integrity and honesty and respect and trust. How important is that relationship that you have with your clients, Alan, that is based on that integrity and trust that you bring to the table?
Well, first and foremost, we're transparent with our clients. We let them know where our experience level. We don't try and say we can do something where we're not expertise in that area. We try to establish that trust with the client at the initial point, from the initial call, like Alex noted. Now, as far as with clients, we open. We have open door. We do not necessarily the straight core hours where it's from 9 to 5 you go on and reach us. We have clients reach us sometimes during non-core hours. We actually spoke to clients as late as 10 o'clock during tax season. We give them that level of not necessarily relationship, where we give them that openness that they can feel free to ask us, openly, questions they may have, or, questions they're not familiar with. We do research for them. We assist them any way we can. And as far as for our clients, that's pretty much how we've been able to grow, mostly word of mouth. We did advertising, but mostly word of mouth, just from clients being happy with us. We grew so rapidly just from that word of mouth approach.
Yeah, I love it so much, Alex. Of course, let's bounce back to Alex just for a minute. You and Alan, I mean, you've really seen some of your clients grow, and you've really been able to take a client from a small seedling and see them become a bush and then a giant tree. And, I bet that's kind of exciting for you guys to see your clients' growth based on, what they're doing, of course, as entrepreneurs, but also your help as consulting and advising them along the way in the sort of the financial and accounting arena. How does that feel, Alex, to see these companies grow under your tutelage, let's say?
It's really rewarding, Andy. It's a privilege, actually. the fact that they trusted us during those early stages. And some of the clients we've grown with them, right? We kind of started off as babies, business babies, if you will, and kind of grown and we've seen the trajectory. So it's really rewarding. It shows that if you invest in each other in terms of time, you're honest. You talked about the transparency, Alan. We kind of display that, and our clients do as well. So it's been great to kind of see their rise, see their the way they've grown in such a way that they've gone out to do other businesses as well. So we've been able to help them just continue what they're doing, continue their mission. So it's been really rewarding.
I love it, Alex. Of course, and let's bounce back to Alan just for a minute. Alan, one thing that you're a big believer in is generational wealth. You want to help your entrepreneurs and your clients not only build wealth for their lives, but for their children and their children's life. How important is that, Alan, when you look at a client, to try and put them on the path to building some generational wealth for themselves and their family?
Yes, so we actually expanded into that, where it's not only just with the tax plan, we help our clients with different types of strategy as well, where recently, during the implementation of G&A, we started three investment clubs where we actually reached out to individuals via social media. Actually, it started from social media. People grew interest. We talked in regards to financial independence. A lot of people aren't aware with the stock market. We're not licensed brokers or anything, but we have some understanding of the market. So we help people understand fundamental analysis, technical analysis related to the stock market. Investment club grew. We actually grown portfolios with three different clubs, exceeding over 200,000 in less than 5 years. So that's an accomplishment. G&A kind of horn in on with a number of. We have over 50 people that sign in under us through different investment clubs. We signed through the NAIC community, which is known as Better Investing now. But we use that to help our clients, and not only clients, but we develop friendships from people we help establish the financial.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. And of course, that's part of the full package. And I know, Alan, you and Alex always make yourselves available. I'm sure your phone's ringing off the hook. Your text messaging is going back and forth, crazy all day long with all your clients. And I know you've built this business with this idea and this I'm going to say this passion to get back to your customers quickly, because you know how important it is to respond back to your customers in a timely manner, and you do such a good job at that. Alex, I want to bounce back to you again just for a minute. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been fascinating. Maybe we can share to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, Alex, maybe some things to think about as maybe they're starting to open their first business. Maybe there's a few pointers you could give them about, what to look at, what type of entity to think about, that you can share with the younger entrepreneurs watching the show who have an idea and they want to open their first business.
Sure. One of the things I would say is you definitely want to read as much as possible, right? Gather as much knowledge. But with that, be careful for when you're gathering from. I get a lot of folks that reach out to me, nothing wrong with TikTok and the other social media outlets, but everybody does not have your best interest. So if you hear something on social media, just double check it. There's a lot of resources out here. The library still exists. You can certainly reach out to other professionals, and part of that is network as much as possible. That was one of my downfalls. One of the criticisms I would say, or constructive feedback for myself, is that I didn't network enough. So as a young entrepreneur coming up in the ranks, you want to make sure you network. And that's just not focusing your industry. That's people from all over, right? Because the more people you know, the more your circle, it's better. It brings a situation where they can help you and you can help them. That's a key one for me. And just be humble. I know that might sound a little cliche, but be humble, be willing to listen, and be willing to just get up from your mistakes. We made a lot of them for sure. And the reason why we're still in existence is because we were humble enough to fix them, acknowledge them, and just bounce back, keep working.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, Alex, it's such a great approach to be humble. Surround yourself with people you trust, people that care about you. Find yourself some mentors. I know you and Alan have done a great job at that. Alan, before I let you go today, let me bounce back to you just for a minute, because I'm very interested, Alan, in mentorship. I know that you've surrounded yourself with some great mentors. You enjoy mentoring others. What is it about this? I'm going to call it the teaching component of G&A consulting, Alan, where you enjoy not only putting the blocking and tackling in place for the accounting side, but also teaching the entrepreneurs so they can improve. What turns you on about that, Alan, that you like so much?
I always look at it as basically paying it forward, because I'm in my position because, like you said, I had mentors. I ended up in this area. I'm originally from South Carolina. I ended up in the Baltimore, D.C. greater area, the Washington, D.C. greater area, more so because of mentors. In the military, Mr. Jabari Miller, I think he's a Fulbright colonel now, as well as Roger Cabinet, shouting them out. They see this interview, what they said to me back in Iraq, right before I came here, because my last station was in Tikrit, Iraq, whereas I was in OIF2. And I noticed to them about the transition in life where I want to go to college. And they both was from this area. And Raj, he actually went to Morgan and, visited the campus. And that time they were commissioned officer and I was enlisted. So those that are familiar with military, the structure, enlisted really don't commingle too much with the commission side of the field. And just for those two guys to take the time being commissioned officer and taking in I was an E4 at the time, but I actually ETS as a sergeant, to take the time and talk with me and show me their leadership skills. I wanted to pay it forward. Whereas, I develop a skill, a skill set of accounting, licensed in CPA, and, becoming a certified public accountant. And those folks that's not familiar with, the accounting side of the field, starting the investment club was one way I can give back. Then also, even with our clients, we talk into the basis of understanding your P&L or your balance sheet. You have to understand the left side of the balance sheet to the right side of the balance sheet. So those basic, I would call it accounting 101s that you can give to those even entrepreneurs, because any business owner, you're going to have to learn some form of accounting. So with that, we teach our clients in a way of also helping them at the same time. Each of our clients now understand our lingo. We talk P&L, BNS, or balance sheet or something. They be like, wait, what? And they have a greater understanding of it now. So.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, military background. I think you mentioned you were a sergeant. I mean, Sergeant Allen. I mean, who doesn't want Sergeant Allen working on their accounting and on their tax returns? I mean, it's amazing. Now, when I was a young man and I went to college, I took Econ 101. And I guess I wasn't paying attention because I didn't do well in the class. And at the end of the term, the professor brought me in and he said, Mr. Jacob, you would have gotten an A in the class, but you have one problem I noticed on the final exam. I said, what was that, sir? And he said, well, you think a debit is a credit and a credit is a debit. I got those things wrong on my final exam. So how about that, guys? Is that a good story?
Awesome story, man. That's the word. The hardest part of accounting is getting those debits and credits right, Andy.
That's right. It's so funny. But listen, you learn. And like you mentioned, you make mistakes, you learn, you keep on improving, you keep on doing well. I mean, here we are, one of America's best tax and accounting firms in 2022 and 2023, according to Forbes. I mean, it's a real honor to have you both on the show. Before we go, though, I have to ask you, Alex, to give back to the entrepreneurial community. I think we heard from George some of his insight about what it takes to keep on pushing and learn from mentors and take it one step at a time to get to where you're going, which is great advice for entrepreneurs. But I'd like to hear from you, Alex, as well. For the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, can you give a little advice about what it takes to get through a tough time in business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think back on my experiences, and what it takes is having a solid foundation that's great folks around you, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. To me, that was my challenge, is when things get tough, somebody has probably been through it, maybe not exactly the way what you're going through, but you want to make sure you can reach out to folks because people are willing to help you. So always have a great network. Always keep your vision in mind. The last thing I'll say, right? Don't give up on that. Keep that in sight, right? Stay on that path. You're going to get derailed. That's part of it. That's part of the journey, right? So you should enjoy it because the more you keep going, you'll get closer to that vision and you'll accomplish it. And G&A is living proof of that, right? We started out just two guys in college competing. And we started out with kind of a dream. And like I said, we kept on the road, kept driving, and we got to where we wanted to go. So I would just say keep focused on it. Keep the folks that are on your team, keep them around you, and don't be afraid to share your issues because you'll get help.
Yeah, I love that. And of course, from an accounting standpoint, my accounting team, I love calm, steady, knowledgeable, inventive. You're all of those things at your company, and I love what you're doing. So before I say goodbye to George Allen Deal, Allen, I want to thank you, Alex, so much for coming on the show today, bringing us inside what you're doing at G&A. And thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today, Alex.
Well, we really appreciate it, Andy. It's been a privilege to be on here. Thanks for letting us share our story.
All right. And of course, Alan, I mean, here we go. I'm going to call you Sergeant Alan now. We really loved having you on the show. And thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today, Alan.
Yes, on behalf of Alex and myself, we really appreciate you inviting us to the show. And thank you again.